But it's time to get Russ up here. Russ, I know. I introduced Russ earlier as being one of the very early Raven employees and a senior scientist at Raven Industries, and that is certainly true. In addition to that, Russ was a vice president at Aeros Data Center, which downloads data from the satellites for photography for the U.S. government. And since then, he's always been involved in some interesting project or another, still doing things. But Russ is a physicist by education and still lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And he was, again, part of the team of the Channel Champ that went across. So, Russ Pohl.
I've told most of the good stories, and the rest of them we can't tell, but we were in Cardington, and the Royal Air Force had invited these young Americans to have lunch with them, and it's a very formal. When these British pilots have lunch, it's very formal. A lot of silverware, you don't know which piece to pick up first, So we're through eating, so Ed lights up a cigarette in this formal dining room, and he stubs the cigarette out in this nice Chinaware, and this British pilot said, we have guests in our mess hall today, and so we got out of there in a hurry, but then we went over to that blimp. We went over next door with you in the British mess halls where the pilots eat. You go over into like what do they call it? A bar, Ed? After we had lunch, you go over into this bar, and the British have a smoke, and that was another formal. You tell war stories there, but. I didn't hear that, Ed. Oh, yeah, we were in Rye, England a week waiting for the weather, and that's when Ed finally said, to hell with it, we're going to go. And so my job was to get him in the air, and I got him in the air. But when we landed in Mildenhall, like I said, that KC-97 dumped us off at the end of this military runway. And there we were with this hot air balloon and all our gear and everything. And we finally conned a ride out of the sky in operations. But anyway, after I launched them out of Rye, I had to get out of Rye and I had to get an airplane over to France. So we used to carry diplomatic passports, but on this one we had a regular blue passport. So I thought, well, I got to get out of here some way, somehow, and I didn't have my passport stamp. So I went to the nearest airport, and I waited until the last person was on that little puddle jumper, and I ran up there like I was in a hurry, and he says, how'd you get into England? And I said, we ended up in Mildenhall, and I got to get out of here, the plane's leaving. So finally he just stamped it, and I still have that passport. He says, claim landed in England, claimed. So anyway, I got out of there, and I picked up Ed, and I found him in that restaurant there, and they were having a good time, and that's when Dolphus showed us his rear end with all those balloons on it there. I didn't know what to say. The guy pulls his pants down, and you're looking at those two balloons on his butt. And so, I said, well, you got to say something. I said, extraordinaire! But we had a lot of fun, and like Ed said, ballooning's been interesting down through the years. We worked on such things as, Jim remembers this well, we did remote control blimps with Volkswagen engines on them. We did pilot airborne survival systems. We were asked by the Air Force how to get a pilot out of keep him from going in Hanoi Hilton. These guys were flying these fighter aircraft, and all of a sudden they'd take a hit, and you're a fighter jock that taxpayers spent $250,000 on training, and all of a sudden you're in this jet and you've got a dead engine or you've got a problem, you got to get out of there, so you eject. Well, a lot of these guys ended up in prisoner of war camps, and so they asked us if we could stop this from happening. So what we did, we spent $1 million, but we put a hot air balloon on a Martin Baker ejection seat on a fighter aircraft, and it would have worked, but the Air Force ran out of money. But it was another application of a hot air balloon, And what we were going to do is, instead of this pilot ejecting out of the aircraft and coming down the parachute, we were going to have the parachute, instead of being a hot air balloon with a flip-up burner and enough fuel to keep them airborne for a while. And then with a C-130 had a pickup system, two big, looked like fish poles sitting out of the back end of it. And you'd come in and you could grab these satellites that were recovered from space. Well, we were going to do the same thing with these pilots, and it was a very feasible program. We called it a Pilot Airborne Survival System. So there was a lot of different systems we worked on and down through the years, and it's been a lot of fun. But anyway, Ed told all the stories we would dare tell, and we got in a little bit of trouble in Rye, England. We stayed there for a week. We didn't have anything to do, but we had one of these agencies in Washington had some gal, remember that blonde gal following us all over? We finally told her, get lost, we're not going to be in trouble, but we had a good time there, and Ed's done a hell of a good job of doing what we have fun doing today, flying modern hot air balloons. It's been a long road. It looks simple now, it looks straightforward, but it wasn't back in those days. Especially when you flew that chimney top, and then people would talk about how do you fly on that board. Well, you'd sit on that board, and I don't know if you're young and dumb and stupid or what, but you'd sit there and, with your feet hanging over the side of the board, just looking right down between your legs. And we didn't have any chicken sacks, but it flew well, and Ed's Stoneboat board worked very, very well. If you look at that thing and look how it opens up, if you do a high wind landing, that's a gondola to be in. But anyway, Orf, thanks.